But yes, today we're going to be looking at the top 10 hardest monsters to summon Yu-Gi-Oh! That just aren't worth it.
So, it seems like I'm once again required to open the gateway. Hello everyone, phoenixEye here. I recently came across a video from the Davinator. It was actually a two-part video where he talks about his top 10 hardest to summon monsters. You may remember that I also made a video about the one that the Duolox uploaded, but just to make sure I'll go over it again. To show off the extreme power of 6 Samurai, I managed to summon each one of these monsters and made sure it was always done in turn 1. In order to kind of put some pressure on it, I created an opponent for myself. I named him Cheating Chat, and essentially his deck exists out of 35 copies of Pot of Greed and all the pieces of Exodia. So in other words, I am kind of pressured to finish the match in a single turn. But fortunately, Cheating Chat is kind of a pussy, so the moment he sees a big bad boss monster, he immediately resigns. And he's also bad at rock, paper, scissors, so I always get to go first. With those rules in place, let's just look at the replays of the decks that I managed to put together. I'll give some commentary over it, explain what exactly is going on, because it might be kind of difficult to follow. But as you will see, most of the time it kind of just comes down to 6 Samurai's ability to, on one side, just summon an infinite amount of monsters, on the other side use Soyuja and reset Soyuja with stuff so that I can infinitely summon as well. And besides that, through infinitely looping Soyuja and using some other stuff like the Bamboo engine, I'm able to draw my entire deck. So with that combination of summoning as much as possible, drawing as much as possible, it kind of only limits me by the amount of monster zones I have. But fortunately that didn't really become too much of a bottleneck in any of these replays. So let's get into it. Okay, starting off here, we didn't have the most amazing hand because we only had one 6 Samurai monster that we could summon. Most of the time I like to have 2 Samurai in my hand that I can summon and something that generates counters. That's kind of immediately, that allows you to ladder immediately into essentially the full combo. But fortunately with the Bamboo Swords I managed to draw into another monster I could summon. It was not the Samurai, so it's not ideal, but Shade Brigade it did its job. Then I use Isolde. I kind of only use Isolde to search out Fuma and discard a Cursed Bamboo Sword, get more Bamboo Swords in my hand, and also use it to generate some more counters. Then I can immediately go into Battle Shogun with that. And from there it's kind of just a matter of constantly pumping out monsters, because every time I use Gateway's effect to search out a 6 Samurai monster, I have to pay 4 Bushido counters from the field for it. But in return I can place the 6 Samurai monster on the field again, allowing me to generate at least 4 Bushido counters. So essentially it was a completely free search, and most 6 Samurai in my deck can summon themselves in the first place. The monster that we are trying to summon now is a rival at Ignister, I believe. Well, its name is a bit longer. I could have gone for a pretty simple solution with this one, just make Soyuja and add 2 Samurai and we're there, but I wanted to try, because it seemed like a pretty easy monster to just do it with 6 different materials, with 6 different elements. And halfway through the whole process I was also thinking, why not just do it all with Samurai too. I actually the whole idea of having 6 different attributes of Samurai on the field is something I pulled off before. I don't have a video on it, but it was to activate the effect of 6 Shinobi turn 1, which allows you to skip your opponent's turn. If people are curious about it, I would be willing to upload a replay of that, but essentially came down to the same thing. Just put 6 Samurai on the field with different attributes, and there you have it. That's in this case just the big boss monster. And you can also use this to activate 6 Shinobi, allowing you to skip your opponent's turn, and that's just essentially an FTK. Okay, in this one we are trying to summon Imperium Magnum, the Superconductive Battlebot. Very nice name. This one is very simple. Essentially what you're going to see me do here is just draw my entire deck until I have all of the components in my hand and then summon it. So I'm probably going to fast forward to this good bit. But you'll see soon enough. Start is basically the same thing as the last replay. And from there we are just going to loop Saryuja, we're going to play the Bamboo Sword, we're just going to draw as many cards as possible till we have the entire set in our hand, just the 3 cards we essentially need to bring the big Battlebot out. So yeah, I'm just going to fast forward through this real quick. It's essentially just drawing and summoning cards. One thing I should probably also explain, one thing I'm doing here, is I use Gateway to draw every single 6 Samurai monster from my deck before I really start searching, before I really start playing too many draw spells. This is purely because if I use all of my draw power immediately, I'm going to draw into a lot of Samurai, and that's completely unnecessary because Gateway can very easily just search out all of them. And that's why I essentially use the effect of Gateway a lot at the beginning, to make sure my deck is at least filtered of all the monsters it can search. Yeah, so what you see here is that I use Daigusto Emerald to essentially reshuffle all of the Saryuja. This on its own already allows me to play essentially Saryuja 6 times, and that's just enough draw power and enough summoning power to get anything you want. And there you have it, the Superconductive Battle Warrior. Okay, now we're looking at a replay for Phantasm Lord Ultimate Bishalkin, or however the fuck it's pronounced. Again, we're starting off with not an amazing hand, but that's very slowly writes itself. This is a very clumsy play at the start, but that's kind of because it just was necessary. But through it all we ended up getting all of the cards we needed in our hand, at least to start off the main combo, and from there it was essentially not that difficult. It was just a matter of getting 2 cards from the field to level 8 monsters, one of which is a tuner. I didn't really look too much into the level 8s I actually summoned. One of which is just a normal tuner because it looked fancy, and the other one that I put in here was just to have a level 8 monster. I put in a super heavy samurai because it kind of fits in with the team of 6 samurai, I guess. And here you already have it. I have both the cards in my hand, and then it's just a matter of summoning Saryuja, which is very easy in this deck. I can literally summon Saryuja as many times as I want. And there he is, the big synchro monster. I kind of just use his effect because why not, but doesn't really do anything since Cheating Chess immediately resigns, and that's game. Okay, Flying Fortress Skyfire. Yeah, this one was essentially kind of the same as the last one, except I just need to summon one more monster. So you can probably predict how this one will go. This is essentially what almost all of these decks end up being, because almost all of them need either specific materials in your hand or on the field. So it's just draw until you have the materials, then use Saryuja to summon the materials. But in the meanwhile, I would like to talk about a little tech I use. It doesn't really come up in any of these replays, but it's kind of like a backup thing. I've been talking about infinite Saryujas, and initially you were probably thinking, or maybe you weren't, I don't know. You can only use 6 Saryujas because of Emerald, but no, there is a single card I run in my extra deck called Psy Frame Lord Omega, and what he allows me to do is bring Daigusto Emerald back from the graveyard to the extra deck to trigger its effect again, literally allowing me to loop Saryuja, or kind of every card as much as I like, because essentially Psy-Framelord Omega, when it's in the graveyard, it is allowed to shuffle back itself and one other card in your graveyard back to the deck. And yeah, that just literally allows me to loop anything. It doesn't really come up here, but the way I essentially make it is I have this one tuner. I like to call him Monkey Boy, but its official name is Shen Squire. You probably have seen it come in and out a little bit. And with the use of Gateway I can summon it. It costs 6 Bushido counters, but usually I have plenty of budget for it. And then I can very easily make Psy-Framelord Omega and just keep looping. Yeah, this was a pretty tough one because the last card that I needed for some reason just decided to be at almost the complete bottom of my deck, but you know, oh well. We got it anyway, and after that all that's left is just summon Sayuja 3 times, and then I can use the effect of Summon Reactor in order to bring out the final monster that we needed for this one. And there we go, big Summon Reactor. Okay, next up we've got Timaeus, the Knight of Destiny. Now this one was kind of difficult to bring out. This was mostly because it was kind of an unorthodox, it was kind of a different summoning method. It wasn't just have 3 cards in your hand or have 3 specific cards on the field, which most of these monsters essentially came down to. This one essentially needed me to have 4 specific spell cards in my hand, and then I was allowed to summon 3 specific monster cards from my deck just off of that one spell. The reason why this was a bit more difficult is because that just means that there is essentially just 7 cards that, until the point that I have all of the right cards in my hand, those are just complete bricks. And that means I have to reshuffle this one like 2 times or something before I finally got a hand that allowed me to play it out completely. And as you can see, I just didn't draw into any of the important spells yet. And there we go. We played the spell cards, we tribute all the spell cards, tribute some life points, allowing us to summon all of the knights, and that brings us to Timaeus, the Knight of Destiny. Okay, next we come up to a pretty tough one. It's Machina Force. The reason why this card was kind of tough is because, essentially, just like earlier monsters, it's based around getting plenty of ones on the field, but this time we needed a total of 4 monsters to be on the field at the same time. This means there ends up being a bit of a field struggle. This is one of the few times I end up in this bottleneck where once there are 3 different monsters already on the field that I can't use to make Sayuja and stuff like that, it becomes really finicky to cheat out Sayuja and continue that combo. I mean, I still managed to do it this time. It ultimately wasn't amazingly hard, but it is kind of evident that this is definitely the limit of essentially useless monsters that you can have on the field while this engine still works. because when you have only one main monster zone left, when there are 4 different cards on your field, you're just not able to play this combo properly. Now at this point I'm essentially just kind of figuring out what I want to do in terms of making room for all of these cards, kind of using Shinai to blow up my own monsters and just all kinds of shenanigans to make sure I have enough room on the field. Of course I also need to blow up that Soyuja so that I could shuffle it back into the deck, because I need 4 summons and I already used that 1 summon, so I needed 3 more, including so I just needed to reset 3 more Soyujas. I could also have used Psy Framelord shenanigans, but that seemed... It's a lot of effort and I rather not if I don't have to. But here you essentially see my final struggle for space. I use Gateway's effect because... I'll pause it here real quick. Shadow of the 6 Samurai Shien is both a 6 Samurai monster and a Shien monster, so I can summon it for... I can pay 6 counters from Gateway to summon it to the field immediately from the grave, and from then I can just combo stuff like I can use the effect of Kizan again, that kind of stuff. It's just a way to keep your combo going after all of your samurai have left the field. And after that I go into Battle Shogun because it's a Link 2. That's literally the only reason, because that's the only way I can make Sayuja from 3 monster spaces and still use its summon effect. And there we have it, all the 4 monsters that we needed, and straight into Machina Force. Next we have Blue Eye Shining. I won't hang around this one too long because you kind of know the deal by now. It's just search until you have all copies of Blue Eyes White Dragon, and then also make sure you draw Polarization, summon Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon and tribute it for Shining. You will see one goof in this gameplay. I run King of the Swamp because I thought, hey, why not, an extra way to search Polarization or an extra material to use. It just meant I had to draw into 1 less card if I actually drew it, but I accidentally summoned it instead of using it to search Polarization, so you'll see that card coming by. Just don't mind it too much. Besides that, it's just drawing the deck again. Here we see a phenomenon that I would like to call the Shien for good luck. You probably have seen me summon Shien a few times throughout the combos. It's literally for no reason. Sometimes it's to generate some extra counters, but for a large part I just like bringing him out because he's like my favorite monster. So yeah, that's the good luck Shien, that's the reason why he's here. And there we have all of the cards we need. Okay, next we have Niels Weissman. This one is also very easy. Like, there is a way to cheat him out. I believe there is one fusion monster that's kind of designed to making the card a bit more useful. I kind of forgot what his name was, but it's essentially allowed to summon Niels Weissman, ignoring its summoning conditions. But we'll just use the intended way of summoning it, and it's honestly really easy. It's just draw till I've got both U-Bell and Elemental Hero Niels, use Soyuja to summon them, and there you have it. It's that's just all that I'm required to do. And as you can see, there we have it. We've drawn into all of the cards that we need, so all that's left to do now is just slam Sayuja on the field twice. Easiest thing in the world with this deck, and there you have it. Big Niels Weissman. Okay, for this one we are trying to summon Thean the Great Swings. I'm actually reusing the replay from the video video that I made on Dulox's top 10 hardest to summon monsters. To my surprise, this was the only the only monster that actually overlapped between the two videos, so I'm pleasantly surprised with that. Allows me to make plenty of new content. So yeah, this one is not that difficult, just get Pyramid of Light activated turn 1, and then I can summon the Sphinxes, the other Sphinx that I need to put on the field first. I can summon them without even using Sayuja or anything. I could have used Sayuja for this, but I thought, why not use Pyramid of Light? Pyramid of Light also has the advantage that you can blow it up with Shinai in order to blow up all of the swings from the field, which is the trigger that allows me to summon the Great Swings. Besides that, I would like to say that this is an Exodia level. That's something that I've been calling all of these decks that require you to draw into 5 or more cards, like the Blue Eye Shining Dragon that I played. The reason I call it that is because if you were to replace all of the cards I have to draw into with pieces of Exodia, you would be able to make Exodia turn 1 by playing the exact same way. This deck is in general able to activate Exodia turn 1 pretty easily. I've done it in competitive settings before. But yeah, that's essentially all there is to it. Here you'll see me using Temple of the Kings to activate Pyramid of Light turn 1, and from there it's essentially just easy sailing. And here you have it, summoning the 2 Sphinxes, then blowing up the Pyramid of Light with Shinai. I actually do need another Shinai because the one I already had on the field was already used, but that's no problem. And then all that's left to do is just summon a big bad monster and win. And now we're moving on to the last one. This one is Supreme King Z Arc. This one was honestly more fun than anything. It was essentially what you need for this one is 4 different dragons, a fusion, synchro, exceed, and a pendulum dragon. And it sounds like a pain, but then you remember there are actually a lot of just generic monsters of those categories that are very easy to make. Like for instance, in terms of dragons, I just looked at what's a generic level 3 exceed dragon that I can make, or a rank 3 exceed dragon, because it's easy to make with Mizuo and Shinai. Found one. I found level 5 Synchro Dragon. That's very easy to make with Kizan and Monkey Boy, or Xian's Foot Soldier, however you want to call him. And besides that, just looked up Dragon Pendulum monster. Since we're going to have to fuse and summon anyway, I don't even need to summon that one, just need to get it in my hand, so I just picked a random one. In terms of fusion, that was the easiest one because I just looked, hey, level 5 or lower fusion dragons, and also play instant fusion, and there you have it, just literally a free monster to put on the field. And there you have it. It was honestly not that difficult to make, but it was definitely a fun one. So yeah, in a bit I will go over the engine I use for this, but first I would like to say, Davinator, if you're watching this, it was honestly not that difficult. But I do hope you enjoyed, and if anyone else watching thinks there's a monster that I won't be able to summon with 6 Samurai turn 1, or at least won't be able to summon with 6 Samurai before my opponent is able to do anything, please let me know. I always like a challenge. But let's go and look at the engine I used. First of all, here is Cheating Chat's deck. As you can see, not very legal, but that's okay. Okay, here you have it. This is essentially my engine, and now for an engine, it's kind of large, kind of takes up almost the entire deck, but you know, it is what it is. Essentially the idea behind this, you have a whole bunch of samurai, almost all of them are very summoned. These all just require one other samurai on the field. Both of these just require the other one to be on the field. This one can summon another samurai when it's summoned itself. The idea is to start off the game by having any of these counter-generating cards. Temple of 6 also works. You don't really want 6 Samurai United to start off, but if you have like 2 of them or one on the other, it still helps. So yeah, essentially draw any one of these cards at the beginning, except one of these 2, and you can just essentially start off. You play both. You first play the counter generator, play both monsters you can summon, make assault, use it to. I prefer to search out Kageki if I haven't used him, because he's going to be useless after this point. And then just discard Cursed Bamboo Sword to make Fuma. Then you can use Fuma and Assault to make Great General of 6 Samurai, and from there you have both 4 counters on one of your counter generators. You've got Great General on the field, or Battle Shogun. Can be called both, I believe. I believe it's called Battle Shogun in the OCG. And yeah, from there you can just discard the Kageki, summon Gateway, and after that is just very easy. A few interesting texts that I've got in here. Shape Brigade, I usually run this guy in here, not really essential. It's just if you draw it, you can usually use it. It's a pretty nice dude. Just a free summon of a level 4 warrior, really synergized with a lot of stuff I can make. Instead of running 2 copies of Temple, which I used to think was optimal first, I use 1 copy of Terraforming, so that when I draw Terraforming I can search the Temple and there won't be a dead card in my deck, because you can only have 1 Temple in the field in general. Yeah, besides that, anything interesting? The Bamboo Swords, of course, are mainly just a draw engine. Here on the sideline I have a few cards you can put in if you have space left over. Of course these 2 are just essentially standard filler, because it lets you just draw 1 card for essentially free. Monster Reborn is pretty good, just gets you 1 extra summon and helps a lot with getting one of these on the field if you don't have one already. And Foolish Burial is also kind of a deck thinner. If you draw it late game, you can use it to discard a spell you won't be using anymore, because for instance these search spells will be useless after like halfway through the duel. And early game you can use it to discard the Cursed Bamboo Sword, really using it for deck thinning and stuff like that. Pot of Avarice, I mean, this card is not bad. It's mainly a card that you want late game, because then you have a lot of monsters in your graveyard and you can just use it to reset. But I usually keep it out here, because the main focus is getting the combo off in the beginning, because that's where it's fragile, and once it gets going you kind of just don't need much assistance. In the extra deck, Xian and Ryan are kind of here for filler. I use them in Arrival at Ignister because because they have just because of the attribute, but in general you won't really be using them a lot. Shadow of the Six is important for 2 reasons. One, they allow you to generate extra counts in the beginning, because you can just summon 2 Kizen and make this guy out of it, and you essentially have some extra counters to play with, really helps if you only have 3 counter generators on the field, essentially. 3 Saryuja. These are main draw and search and draw and summon engine. Isolde and Battle Shogun explained that one. Dugrets are timeless, very useful to get one of these 2 on the field. And if all else fails, you can always use it for 3 draws. Daigusto Emerald, meaning that the 3 Saryuja are now 6 Saryuja. And then here the Psy Framelord Omega. This one I didn't really get to show it off this video, but yeah, pretty easy to make in this deck. And it allows you to shuffle back your Emerald, which allows you to then again shuffle back Saryuja. And this dude shuffles himself back also, so it means endless Saryuja. Or endless any other card if you really need it. Besides that, oh yeah, I was also going to say Shadow 6 Xian can also be summoned by Gateway from the grave, just directly to the field, allowing you to essentially revive your full combo. And yeah, this combination just allows you to draw and summon as much as you want, allowing you to make basically every card. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I would really like to see Davinator being able to see this video, just because it would just be an honor. Because that would just be an honor. And besides that, I hope all of you have a nice day.